The iconic rocker is best known for his wild and often unpredictable on-stage antics. When we last spoke nearly 3 years ago, Iggy said he might be done making music.
There's a reason they call him the street-walking cheetah with a heart full of napalm. Iggy Pop completely changed what a rock singer could be. He made the stage a danger zone, a place of wild and scary energy. His whole career is a story of survival, a raw scream put to a hammering beat. But that scream wasn't born from nothing. It has echoes of other voices. Behind the wild eyes and the bare chest is a very smart student of performance. Get ready to meet the 6 masters who, without knowing it, showed Iggy Pop how to become a musical weapon. 1. Jim Morrison.
Pure, unbounded joy. I don't think we've really done that yet.
Well, all your songs are an expression of joy and potency. So far.
Yeah, maybe.
What?
Before Iggy Pop was the king of stage chaos, there was Jim Morrison. As the singer for The Doors, Morrison was a figure of dark poetry and edgy theater. He treated every show like a dangerous mind game with the audience. For a young James Osterberg, who would later become Iggy Pop, seeing The Doors at his college in Michigan back in 1967 was more than just a concert. It was an awakening. He watched Morrison, dressed in leather, dare the audience to react, blurring the line between the performer and the crowd, between control and pure madness. He was hooked by the sheer guts of it all. Morrison wasn't just singing songs, he was leading a strange, electric ceremony. And Iggy was in the front row, taking notes. But here's the key. Iggy wasn't just a blind follower. He was also a critic. He saw something in Morrison that he believed he could do better, something he could make feel more real. He was a great-looking guy, and he was a badass, Iggy later said about Morrison. But he was a little bit overbrained. Iggy felt that Morrison's deep, poetic lyrics and intellectual style put a wall between him and the audience. The conflict for Iggy wasn't about hate, it was about approach. Iggy's mission became clear. He had to tear down that wall. He needed to get rid of the poetry and the intellectual poses and just get down to the raw, physical, animal-like heart of a performance. He wanted to take the danger Morrison hinted at and put it right in your face. This burning goal exploded in his own shows with the Stooges. While Morrison might tease and taunt a crowd, Iggy would dive headfirst into it. The famous story where Iggy smeared peanut butter all over his chest and then walked on top of the audience's hands? That was him taking Morrison's ideas to a whole new level. It was like Iggy was showing the world, you can play the part of the wild man, but I'll be the wild man. He saw the theatrics in Morrison's act, like when he would get dramatically carried off stage by security. Iggy wanted the chaos to be so real that nobody, not even he, knew what would happen next. He openly admitted Morrison's impact, saying, "I took a lot of his stuff." He didn't just borrow a few stage moves. He took Morrison's spirit of challenging the audience and cranked it up with a desperate, angry energy that could only come from the forgotten factory towns of the American Midwest. He had the madness, but he needed the words for the gutter. 2. Lou Reed.
Yeah, so it's a kind of interesting partnership. But I like Andy also helped me a lot with writing. Helps me by.
If Jim Morrison was the dark prince of psychedelic rock, Lou Reed was the street-smart poet of the New York City underworld. As the leader of the Velvet Underground, Reed wrote songs about a part of life most of the 1960s peace and love bands ignored. He wrote about the hustlers, the outcasts, and the lonely people living on the edge. His singing style was a cool, distant mumble, and his band's music was a beautiful, grinding noise. For Iggy and the Stooges, who were stuck in the gray industrial landscape of Michigan, the Velvet Underground was a sign that they were not alone. Here was a band that sounded the way their hometown felt, tough, repetitive, and humming with a hidden, dangerous vibe. The connection between them soon became very real and very personal. By 1971, the Stooges had crashed and burned. Iggy was lost and couch surfing in New York, his career basically dead in the water. The stakes for him were life and death. That's when David Bowie stepped in and arranged a meeting between Iggy and Lou Reed in London. The idea was for them to work together, but it was more like putting two hungry lions in the same small room. The drama was instant. Reed was already a solo star, with a reputation for being difficult and looking down on people. He saw the wild, untamed Iggy as a curious creature, something fascinating but also messy. Iggy, on the other hand, deeply respected Reed's genius with words, but wasn't about to let anyone boss him around. Despite the tension, you can hear Reed's influence all over the album that came out of this period, the masterpiece known as Raw Power. While the music is a pure, raging fire from the Stooges, the attitude and the straight-to-the-point lyrics owe a lot to Lou Reed. Iggy learned from Lou how to tell stories from the gutter without judging them. He learned to turn ugly, honest moments into powerful, simple poetry. Reed had a famous saying about his music: "One chord is fine. 2 chords are pushing it. 3 chords, and you're into jazz." This was the same simple but powerful idea the Stooges had already been using, but Reed gave it a stamp of New York art scene cool. He showed Iggy that you didn't need fancy words or complicated music to say something important. It was a strange and often tense friendship, but it was exactly what Iggy needed. Lou Reed gave Iggy's raw scream a sharp, intelligent, and totally fearless voice. Iggy built himself from the blueprints of legends. If you love discovering the DNA of rock and roll, hit subscribe now. We're digging deep into more icons just like this. He learned how to be cool, but he needed to learn how to move. 3. Mick Jagger. Long before punk rock was even a thing, Mick Jagger was writing the rulebook for what a rock and roll frontman should be. As the singer for the Rolling Stones, Jagger was a walking, talking bolt of lightning made of pure charisma. He didn't just sing the songs, he became the songs, using his whole body to do it. For a young Iggy Pop, seeing the Stones on TV and live in concert was like going to church. He saw in Jagger a new way for a man to act on stage. He was flashy, he was a little bit feminine, and he was absolutely magnetic. It was a performance style that was both like a top athlete and a graceful dancer, a mix that totally destroyed the old idea of a stiff, boring rock singer. But, as always, Iggy wasn't just a fan. He was a student, and a tough one at that. He famously watched Jagger's every move and broke it down with a mix of total admiration and a powerful sense of his own mission. He saw this guy from England taking the music of Black American blues artists and selling it back to kids in America. Suddenly, everything clicked. In a flash of genius that would define his entire career, Iggy asked himself a life-changing question. I'm not black. I'm not from England. I'm from Michigan. What am I gonna do? He knew he couldn't just be a copycat of Mick Jagger. That would be fake. He had to take that incredible energy and filter it through his own life story. The dirt, the noise, and the crushing boredom of living in America's industrial heartland. The challenge he gave himself was to be more authentic. He looked at Jagger's famous strut and thought, I can do that, but I can make it scarier, more real. In his own words, he decided to take Jagger's prissy little dance and push it into the danger zone. Where Jagger's moves were a playful tease, Iggy's would be a direct threat. He took the flamboyant style of Jagger and ripped all the glamour off it, leaving behind just a raw, twitching nerve of pure energy. This wasn't about being jealous of Jagger, it was about creating something new. He was building a new kind of American monster using the blueprint of a British rock god. The mystery he created for his audience was simple. Mick Jagger played the part of a bad boy, but Iggy Pop might actually be one. This twisted, supercharged version of Jagger's persona became the foundation for Iggy's own shocking, unpredictable, and legendary stage show. He mastered the strut, but another man would teach him the meaning of sweat. 4. James Brown. While Iggy learned a lot from the rock stars of his time, one of his biggest inspirations for how to perform came from a totally different world, the world of soul music. He learned from the one and only hardest-working man in show business, the legendary James Brown. Watching Brown's incredible performances on TV was a life-changing experience for Iggy. He saw a man who left every single drop of his energy, his heart, and his soul on the stage every single night. This wasn't just a guy singing and dancing. This was a man channeling a spiritual force so powerful it looked like it might tear him apart right in front of your eyes. What really grabbed Iggy was the absolute, total commitment. He watched Brown perform his signature cape routine, where he would sing so hard he'd collapse on the stage as if he was finished. Then, his backup singers would gently cover him with a cape and try to walk him off, only for Brown to suddenly throw off the cape and resurrect himself, jumping back to the microphone with even more energy than before. It was brilliant theater, but it felt 100% real. For Iggy, this was the greatest performance art he had ever seen. When I saw James Brown, and he would do the thing where he would fall and be carried off, and he would come back, Iggy remembered, it was a real physical release. He saw more than just a cool trick. He saw a ritual of symbolic death and rebirth. He saw a performer giving so much of himself that he literally overloaded his own circuits on stage. This gave Iggy his next mission. He wanted to feel that same incredible release, but without the safety of a planned show. He wanted to reach that state of pure instinct that James Brown seemed to tap into. The raw screams, the grunts, the body covered in sweat, Iggy soaked it all up. He took Brown's tight, precise dance moves and turned them into his own wild, spastic, and unpredictable thrashing. He took the desperate screams from Brown's song, "Please, Please, Please," and twisted them into the guttural howls of his own anthem, "I Wanna Be Your Dog." The drama he created was all about physical risk. Would he hurt himself? Would he collapse for real? He took the organized chaos of a James Brown concert and let it run completely wild, making every Stooges show a thrilling and dangerous act of pure physical expression. We've seen the fire, but Iggy's story is full of surprises. If you crave these unfiltered rock histories, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. He had the fire, but he would learn the power of ice. 5. Frank Sinatra. Now we get to the part of the story that will surprise you, the twist that shows how deep Iggy Pop's artistry really goes. While his reputation was built on noise, sweat, and chaos, he had a huge and lasting respect for the master of vocal control and effortless cool, Frank Sinatra. It sounds like it makes no sense. How could the guy who famously rolled around in broken glass on stage be a fan of the perfectly dressed, smooth-as-silk chairman of the board? But for Iggy, it made perfect sense. He looked past the fancy suits and saw a performer with incredible power, an artist who could make you feel a whole world of emotion just by the way he sang a single word. Iggy didn't care about Sinatra's fancy lifestyle. He cared about his skill. He was obsessed with Sinatra's phrasing, the unique way he would sing his lines. He knew that Sinatra didn't just sing words on a page. He became the character in the song. He had perfect timing, knowing just when to pause, when to rush ahead, and when to let a note just hang in the air and break your heart. In a statement that would probably shock most punk rock fans, Iggy always praised Sinatra's amazing talent. He had a very, very graceful sense of rhythm, Iggy said, admiring how Sinatra would play with the beat of the music to create a feeling of tension and release. This was a kind of artistic genius that was miles away from the simple, brute force of early rock and roll. And this wasn't just some casual interest. It directly affected his own music. Especially as he got older, and his songs became more complex. When you listen to Iggy's deep, booming voice on songs from his classic solo albums like The Idiot or Lust for Life, you can hear the ghost of Sinatra in the way he delivers the lines. He learned from Sinatra how to be a storyteller. His admiration went so far that he even recorded a beautiful, haunting version of one of Sinatra's most famous sad songs, One for My Baby and One More for the Road. It was proof that under all the punk rock noise, there was a sensitive and intelligent singer who had learned from one of the all-time greats. This secret influence shows that behind the wild man on stage, there was always a careful and dedicated artist. He learned how to sing a story, but his own was about to be rewritten by a star from another planet. 6. David Bowie. No story about Iggy Pop's influences is complete without the man who was more than just an influence. He was a savior, a collaborator, a creative partner, and a dangerously close friend. David Bowie. Their relationship is one of the most legendary in all of rock history. A tale of two artists at opposite ends of the spectrum who came together to create magic. When they first truly connected in 1971, Bowie was skyrocketing to global fame as Ziggy Stardust. Iggy, on the other hand, was a mess. The Stooges were done. He was battling serious personal demons, and his career was effectively over. Bowie, a longtime fan of the Stooges, saw the raw, untapped genius in Iggy that the rest of the world had missed. Bowie used his newfound fame and power to pull Iggy out of the darkness. He brought him to London and got him a record deal, which led to the creation of the album Raw Power. This is where the first real drama between them started. Bowie was a perfectionist in the studio, known for clean, polished sounds. Iggy and the Stooges were the opposite. They were about raw, loud, messy energy. The final mix of the album became a point of conflict for years. Iggy wanted it to sound like a punch to the face, but Bowie's mix smoothed out some of the rough edges. It was a classic battle, the slick superstar trying to package the untamable wild man. Despite the arguments, Bowie's involvement saved the album and gave Iggy a second chance. Their story went much deeper, into a period of shared scandal and excess in Los Angeles. They were living together, caught in a downward spiral of non-stop partying. It was a dark and destructive time that nearly consumed them both. The personal stakes were at their highest. It was Bowie who made the life-saving decision to escape. "Come with me to Berlin," he told Iggy. "We can clean up and make music." That move to West Berlin in 1976 was a resurrection for both of them, but especially for Iggy. This wasn't just a change of scenery. It was an escape into anonymity and a deliberate dive into the avant-garde spirit of the divided city. Surrounded by the concrete ghosts of history, they found a creative freedom they couldn't access in the sun-drenched chaos of Hollywood. Their working method became legendary in its own right. Bowie, the disciplined architect, would craft intricate, moody soundscapes on the keyboard and synthesizer, leaving space for Iggy, the primal poet, to prowl the studio and unleash stream-of-consciousness lyrics. This dynamic produced rock anthems from the most unexpected places. The chugging, infectious riff of Lust for Life, for example, was famously inspired by the Morse code-like signal of the American Forces Network news broadcast they'd watch. It was a perfect fusion of Bowie's structured pop sensibility and Iggy's raw, immediate instinct. In the cold, gray, artistic atmosphere of the city, they created Iggy's two greatest solo albums, The Idiot and Lust for Life. Bowie co-wrote the music, played keyboards, and produced the records, guiding Iggy's raw ideas into brilliant, focused songs. He taught Iggy how to write melodies, how to structure a song, and how to use his deep voice in a new, powerful way. He wasn't just a producer, he was a teacher, helping Iggy build a whole new artistic identity that would carry him for the rest of his career. Bowie wasn't just an influence, he was the co-architect of the Iggy Pop we know today. These are the giants who shaped the godfather of punk. But did he just copy them, Or did he create something entirely new from their spare parts? Let us know what you think in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for more.